Illinois Governor JB Pritzker, he has an idea for not just why they're doing this, but why they're doing this right now specifically. Take a look.
We have reason to believe that Stephen Miller chose the month of September to come to Chicago because of celebrations around Mexican Independence Day that happen here every year. It breaks my heart to report that we have been told ICE will try and disrupt community picnics and peaceful parades. Let's be clear, the terror and cruelty is the point, not the safety of anyone living here.
So Mexican Independence Day is next week, next Tuesday, the 16th, and Chicago's population is a whopping 30% Hispanic, which means that about a third of the population of Chicago is now subject to being racially profiled the minute that they leave their houses. And as you can imagine, and maybe not as you can imagine, but thankfully this is very unpopular nationally. So a new CBS News poll shows that 58% of Americans oppose the president sending the National Guard to other cities beyond Washington, D.C., but 42% still support it. That number is way too high for my comfort. I don't get it. I don't understand why people are okay with this. And also, they want to use Chicago's high crime rates as a reason as to why they have to do this. And Chicago has long been a boogeyman for the right. Chicago is the worst. Obama's from Chicago. The crime there is crazy. Don't leave your house if you go to Chicago. Chicago has good parts and it has bad parts, just like any city, Republican or Democrat run. But Chicago's murder rate is actually lower than a number of other cities. So in its most recent data from 2023, more than 100 cities around the world had higher homicide rates than Chicago, including Memphis, Tennessee, New Orleans, Louisiana, St. Louis, Missouri, Baltimore, Maryland, Cleveland, Detroit, and Washington, D.C. And also Trump made it obvious that it wasn't about Chicagoans and keeping them safe when he posted this on Truth Social. This is what he posted, and it was, "I love the smell of deportations in the morning." And it looks like he's, dropping napalm on Chicago. It says, "Chicago is about to find out why it's called the Department of War." Jackson, what's interesting about this to me is that Trump ran on a platform of being the anti-war president, but now he's doing this. And I mean, he's done other things that have shown that he's not as anti-war as he would like people to think he is. The right, however, they still go with that line. They still say he is the anti-war president, no new wars, whatever. Don't even worry about what's going on off the shore of Venezuela right now. Don't worry about the fact that we're still funding what's going on, the genocide in Gaza, by giving Israel all this money and weaponry. But on top of that, he has given us the National Guard right here at home. So even if it's no new wars abroad, he's just bringing war back home because America first. And also, he's the anti-war president. He's the one who renamed the Department of Defense to the Department of War, which is it's obviously a lot more honest because that is what the Department of Defense has always been. But he's the guy who said, "I'm anti-war, but this is the Department of War. And my first target for my new Department of War is Chicago." I don't know what to do with any of that. What do you think, Jackson?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the Department of War, I mean, how enigmatic is that really?
And what does enigmas. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, it's what it is in reality. But for someone who's supposed to be anti-war, it's just the complete antithesis of what you would expect them to do. But Donald Trump is a con artist, and that's what he's always been about. Really, one of the only differences in this term and last term is in this term, he's more crazy, more old and decrepit and out of his mind, and he has less people around him to tell him no. So we're seeing a bit more of his chaos play out than we otherwise would have if we had some of the people that we had in his first term. But like I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, and the crime rate is typically higher. But the truth about that is it's so much more of a perception of crime than a reality of crime, because where all these shootings happen are in very isolated areas that are stricken with poverty. But the overwhelming majority of these cities, you don't have to worry about these types of things. And And again, I grew up with dozens of people that I grew up with were shot and killed. So I come from that. But I'm telling you, like, that's just not the whole picture whatsoever. Most of St. Louis, you don't have to worry about that whatsoever, unless you go to areas that, like, what the hell are you going there for in the first place? And most people who get popped are involved in that type of lifestyle. Yeah, people get shot when they get robbed, but for the most part, gangsters get shot up. And people who live that type of lifestyle, who, mind you, the right does not care about. So if we actually want to address the issues of crime, we have to address the systematic problems that cause it. You know, people not having access to resources, living in environments where the school system is horrible and there's no economic opportunities. Then we can quell these issues of gun violence, or we can do something about the guns, which of course Republicans have no interest in doing either. Again, I live in Chicago. I live on the south side of Chicago, where all this stuff takes place. Not in the worst areas of it, but like, you know, there's the reality of crime is it's just something that people do, and you can understand these behaviors. But Chicago's one of the best places anybody could ever live. It's a beautiful city. There's so much opportunity here. It's amazing, and that's the truth.
Yeah, I mean, I live in Texas and I have a lot of Republican MAGA people around me. And what's interesting, or like kind of, it's very frustrating actually, is they constantly are disparaging cities that they haven't been to. Sometimes cities that they've never been to, sometimes cities that they haven't been to since like the 80s or the 70s even, right? And they have so many bad things to say about these places, but they really have no idea what the reality is like for the people living in these cities. And they get all of their information from Fox News and the like, and it's all very fear-mongering. It's all highlighting the worst of the worst. And as you said, if anybody in government was serious about curbing crime in any of these big cities, they would have to put a lot of money and a lot of legislation into these cities, particularly into the already underfunded low-income neighborhoods. And we all know that neither party right now is willing to do that.